George Ritzer updates Weber's theories about modernization and bureaucracy to discuss the problems he sees in today's world. He calls this theory McDonaldization. Weber argues modernization is characterized by efficiency, predictability, calculability, and control exercised through non-human technology. He argues that we use these things in our quest for rationality. However, unfortunately, this often leads to the irrationality of rationality, and we end up trapped in what he calls the iron cage. The irrationality of rationality highlights all the ways that rationality is actually unpleasant to experience. He points out things like the dehumanization we experience in bureaucratic structures, the inefficiency that arises out of red tape, and the lack of flexibility as increasing systemic requirements make things more and more difficult to accomplish. He argues that the system can become unpredictable as it becomes more complex, and increasingly, we all get very frustrated with non-human technologies. It's probably easy for you to think of examples of dehumanization in a bureaucratic system. Ritzer highlights the unique form that this is coming to take today. He calls it McDonaldization, the process by which the principles of the fast food restaurant are coming to dominate more and more sectors of American society, as well as the rest of the world. In his more recent work, he highlights the Starbucks effect as well. The dimensions of rationalization and McDonaldization are the same: efficiency, calculability, predictability, and control through non-human technologies. Efficiency means choosing the optimum means to a given end, and this can have many advantages for consumers. But what is optimum? Ritzer observes that in our efforts to be efficient, we end up doing a tremendous amount of the labor even as consumers. Calculability refers to a tendency to quantify and evaluate everything in this way. Many workers find this dehumanizing. Are you, as a student, the sum of your test scores? Predictability refers to the comfort that comes from knowing what to expect. It removes stress and insecurity from interaction. It also can be mind-numbing. It can remove regional, local, and unique aspects of experience. One of the ways we increase control today is through the use of non-human technologies. In some ways, this can make things more efficient. In other ways, it can be frustrating for both customers and workers. For example, when I was in college, we actually waited in line and registered in person. While the lines were long, we met with an individual who assisted us if we weren't able to get into the class we thought we needed. Ritzer highlights many of the problems with the irrationality of rationality that emerge in a McDonaldized system. Inefficiency. Sometimes we end up standing in very long lines for our fast food or our ATM machines. High costs. While it seems like you're getting a great deal on that soda, you're actually paying considerably more than it's worth. False friendliness. That workers are forced to enact friendliness no matter how they're feeling and no matter how they're treated by customers. Disenchantment. That much of the magic and enchantment that came from the uniqueness of situations in the world is taken away when everything goes according to a manual. Health and environmental hazards. Even though fast food restaurants are now making their food quote-unquote healthier, we know that there are many problems with it. Homogenization. We're tending to see more of the same products everywhere. Dehumanization. Employees just become plug-in parts, as do customers. Ritzer also points out the ways that these things undermine our family experiences, our educational experiences, our healthcare experience, and our work life. Many people actively resist McDonaldization. Some people prioritize buying local or patronizing local businesses. Some reject mega or chain superstores. Others reject megacultural products. Many people search for meaningful practices to enact in their daily lives. Along with his theories of McDonaldization, Ritzer highlights one of the problems of globalization, what he calls the globalization of nothing. This is one of his key critiques of globalization, that more and more we get nothing as opposed to something in the way that we are enacting globalization. What does Ritzer mean by nothing? He means a social form that's generally centrally conceived, controlled, and comparatively devoid of distinctive and substantive content. Take a look at the images on this slide and compare them to the ones that are going to come up on the next slide. The images on this slide, they're not terrible, but they're pretty homogeneous and less appealing than the ones on the next. Something is indigenously conceived, controlled, and rich in unique, distinctive, substantive content. The desserts I make on the holidays are far better than anything that's going to come in a box at the store. The upside to nothing is that it's largely democratic and equitable. Everyone gets served at McDonald's and everyone gets served the same meal for the same price. It's predictable, safe, and comforting. That's also the downside to nothing. It's predictable, safe, and comforting. Another downside is the social cost.